your genre in DJ, because some guy might be a trance DJ, some guy might be this, and to get good at that, and to be at the cutting edge. How did you get to the stage where, I mean, obviously working in a record shop must have helped because you would have had the choice of records, but I mean, what made you go down musically the style that you went down?
Well, I mean, when I started DJing in '94, there was less clubs and less DJs. I mean, now you meet people who go, "Oh, I'm a DJ," and you think, "Well, okay, if you say so." But if you've got a full-time job and you do a bit of DJing, I would say you're not really. You might enjoy DJing, but it's not like what you do. But in 1984, less DJs, less clubs, and I've always had eclectic taste. So, for example, at school in Kirkcaldy, I went to high school. All my friends were into progressive rock, Genesis, Deep Purple, Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. At the time, I thought, this is shit. I hate it. I've since realised it's actually pretty good, but at the time I hated it, and I totally embraced punk, right? And I loved punk because I was always a fan of Roxy Music and T-Rex and that kind of glam rock thing. But at the same time, because my mum, when I was a kid, used to grow up listening to Motown and Stax, I always had a soft spot for kind of soul and funk, and then what became disco. So I was kind of a disco-loving punk, which are kind of some people didn't quite understand. But of course, when bands like Blondie started making disco records, it kind of all made sense to everyone. And I was like, yeah see, there you go. So when I started DJing in '84, it was literally things I liked. So I'd played Donna Summer and Chic and Sister Sledge, and then I'd play the Talking Heads and New Order and Human League, and then I'd play some old Motown, and then I'd play some things like SOS Band and Change, and stuff in the charts like ABC, but like the 12-inch dance version of Look of Love by ABC, or a real mix of stuff. And then working in the record shop, obviously I was getting like access to stuff, but not just the British stuff, the imports. So I had to do the call every week with the importer, and all the early electro stuff started to appear about '84. So hip hop bebop by Man Parrish and Looking for the Perfect Beat by Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Crew, and all that kind of Tommy Boy 21st century stuff, and that was just fantastic. It's really kind of robotic electronic with a rap on it. And then of course all the early hip hop came on, Big Daddy Kane, Roxanne Shante, early Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, and all that, and then just mixing all this stuff together. But then in '86, with the importer on the phone goes, right, one last thing, we got these obscure 12-inch singles from Chicago and Detroit. I said, well, give me one of each, and they were what was to be known as house music. JM Silk, Music is the Key. So I got one of each, took the shrink wrapping off and played it in the shop. And the people I worked with in the shop were like, oh, what, this is rubbish. I went, oh, no, it's not. This is amazing. It was like really raw, electronic, definitely European inspired beats with this amazing soulful vocal on top. If anyone listening, if you go and search Music is the Key by JM Silk, it's Steve Silk Hurley and it's Keith Nanali on vocals, and it is still to this day, I think, one of the greatest, never mind house, club records ever. It's just raw with this beautiful soulful voice on top. But then house started to take over. But I've always had eclectic taste. So if you listen to my weekly radio show, I like to mix it up. And it's a year since I did my 12-hour United We Stream live stream. And from midday till 9 p.m, I didn't play anything that had a house beat. I was playing all that stuff that I used to play back in the early days, all the old hip hop and rap, and even some pop stuff. To me, I'm known for playing house music, but I can tailor what I do to the gig. I look at the crowd. If I've got an older crowd and you think, well, yeah, they probably all went to the Hacienda, I'll play to them, right?
Yeah.
But I love to dig out. It gets boring. It gets boring doing the same set every week. I know some DJs are quite happy playing the same set every week, just old stuff. But I like to dig out stuff that people have forgotten about. So if I go into my lockup and start digging through boxes of records, it's a bit like going into a record shop 30 years ago. You're finding things that you forgot about. But then if I do a gig and the crowd are all too young to have even gone to the Hacienda, they maybe say they were born after the Hacienda closed, but they're there because they wanted to see original Hacienda DJ Graeme Park. I can play whatever I like because a young audience, they always seem to be a lot more open-minded. So you can drop obscure stuff and drop weird stuff, and they love it. But then on the other hand, I sometimes get booked to play, for example, the Liverpool Disco Festival. Well, there's a massive clue in the title of that event as to what the vibe is there.
Sure.
But I also have been booked to play soul nights and funk nights. In fact, in Stirling, a few years ago, I did a soul thing there. And to me, it's just about playing what you like and what you know. You know, it's no point trying to play stuff you're not passionate about, stuff that you're not into. So if somebody would say to me, if somebody would say to me, can you come and play a techno set? I'd say, I can play you a techno set, but I'd only be playing stuff that was made in Detroit from 86 to 89. But if they said, no, I don't mean that, I mean kind of modern day techno, I'd say, well, there's the odd track that I quite like, but I couldn't do a DJ set. I just couldn't. But equally, another type of music that I love, but I would never do a DJ set, although I have been asked when I said this to someone else. When I leave a gig, if I'm driving home, my rule when we get back to work, if the gig is less than 2 hours from home, I'll just drive there and I'll drive home because I'd rather get home to my own bed, and it'll stop me. It will stop me getting up to no good as well, right? If I'm driving myself, right? But when I leave a club at 4 a.m. and I get in the car, I immediately put on jungle or drum and bass as loud as my ears will stand it. And as I leave the club and join the motorway and go through the gears and fly up the M6 back to the northwest of England, I just love it. It just, wow, you're driving along like this, going, come on! But I couldn't do it. Maybe I could, but I wouldn't do a DJ set. So I've never got focused on one genre. Although some people know me as being a house DJ. That's fine. But I love it when I play to a young crowd who've got no baggage. That when I say baggage, people who used to go to Hacienda, and you can tell they're not enjoying the night because they just want to hear the same old classics because they've got a face like thunder. You can see them in the club like this, going like, and then they come up to the DJ box and go, "Come on, Parky, get some proper Hacienda classics on." And I go, "But look at the dance floor; it's packed, and everyone's going mental." And anyway, sometimes somebody asked me to do this once when I was playing an obscure Strictly Rhythm record from 1992, and I'm like, "Well, I am." No, not this. the proper stuff. But that's why we came up with Hacienda Classical, because yes, I'm not denying there's an audience of older clubbers who, no, I no disrespect them, they're quite happy to hear Where Love Lives and You Got the Love and Shine On and Let Me Show You and all that stuff. So we did it with an orchestra, so it keeps it fresh and exciting for me, and it means I get to go back to playing in a band, which is what I did
when you're DJ. That's amazing.
Although
that's amazing.
on a much grander scale, instead of me, a drummer, a guitarist, and a bass player, and maybe a keyboard player, although I used to do keyboards as well as sax, it's me, a 40-piece orchestra, a choir, and 3 solo singers. And in a way, I thought when we started touring it, I thought, yeah, I've actually gone back to do what I wanted to do in the first place. So the DJing kind of sidetracked me. But I just think that to me, play to the crowd and just enjoy, but have a knowledge of the music you're going to play.
I was going to say that to you. I was going to say that to you because if you go back to the records that you mentioned there and the ones that you gave a shout out to, I mean, this is the hassle that I've got with the modern day is that the records of today. I mean, there's some, as you said, there's some fabulous records that you can say, well, that one, or whatever. But all the records that you're talking about there are real classic records. They're fantastic. And this is the thing is when I look at your set lists. And it's quite interesting because before I did this interview, I studied quite a lot about you and quite a lot of your set lists. And your set lists that you played in the early days at the Hacienda would still stand up today. And yet, I doubt if the DJs, if you took we'll not mention a name, but if you took a DJ that's currently hot, that's playing Ibiza today, and you took that set list in 20 years from now, I don't think it would be so palatable, you know. And so I think that's the thing. I mean, I think you've managed to hit the magic of knowing your material, but also choosing wisely that. You know, I mean, because I think that's a talent as well. I